Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT This Morning.
4 UK football players have been suspended following a shots-fired incident on campus.
A woman sitting on her front porch got caught in some crossfire.
And a motel fire leaves a couple without a place to stay. We'll have those stories and more, and breaking news as it happens, coming up on WKYT This Morning. Good morning to you and welcome. Good to have you with us here on Tuesdays. We get this day off and rolling. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Rebecca Smith. For the first track on the weather, let's turn to meteorologist Micah Harris.
Well, we actually have something to talk about this morning. I mean, it hasn't been that way for a long time. It's been very calm and quiet. Now we're looking for a dense fog advisory down toward the south and the east. And that'll last throughout the morning hours and then move on out. Live sky camera, there is your shot outside. And it's a beautiful morning here in Lexington. I think the bluegrass northbound, you won't see much fog. There could be some patchy fog, but for the most part, it's all about the temperatures. There you are in the 50s. And look, it is slightly cool outside. And going in toward the afternoon, we're exactly where we were yesterday. Yesterday and today are kind of carbon copies of each other, around 80 degrees. We head toward the next couple of days, and it looks pretty good. Off toward the weekend, that's when things start to change. And I'll show you that forecast coming up in a few minutes.
We'll see you in a bit, and we thank you. University of Kentucky police say they have identified the people in surveillance photos taken Sunday night after a shots-fired report on campus. And those people include 4 UK football players.
Those players are Dorian Baker, Drew Barker, Tymir Dubose, and Stanley Williams. Sunday night, police say people reported hearing shots on the south side of campus. It sparked an alert. Police later said they found an airsoft pellet gun near a residence hall. Last night, they released surveillance pictures of some persons of interest in the case. UK police say those pictures helped them identify everyone involved. The 4 men have been suspended since being identified. A woman just sitting on her front porch ended up being shot. Lexington police say she was an innocent bystander caught up in the crossfire. Happened Monday afternoon at a home near 5th and Ohio Streets. 5 people have now been shot in Lexington since Friday. WKYT's Victor Puente talked to family members of the latest victim.
The niece of the woman who was shot says her aunt was surrounded by children when those bullets started flying. She says they're lucky someone wasn't killed.
The shooting happened around 4 Monday afternoon. Lexington police say several people in a PT Cruiser and another group in a dark SUV were driving down Ohio Street shooting at each other. When they drove past 5th Street, a woman sitting on her front porch was hit by one of those bullets.
She was just holding her legs and I just seen blood and she was saying she was hit.
The woman was taken to UK hospital. Police began searching for both cars and found the Cruiser at Michigan and Charles. It had bullet holes through the windshield and in the body. Police believe it was shot into and out of. The niece of the victim says there were children on that porch when the shooting happened.
Because I got 6 grandkids that live right here, and it don't make sense that somebody gonna pull up and start shooting. My babies could have got shot.
Police are still searching for the people in the Cruiser and for the dark-colored SUV. They say it's too soon to know if this shooting is connected to any others from this weekend. They're also asking for any witnesses who haven't spoken to police to come forward.
Everybody needs to get their life together and quit all of this shooting and stuff because too many people are getting hurt.
The family of the victim tells me she isn't home from the hospital yet. They say she is expected to recover. In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Lexington police tell us that after the shooting, a 17-year-old showed up at Good Samaritan Hospital with an injury to his hand. They think he may have a connection to the shooting. The 4 other people injured in shooting since Friday have non-life-threatening injuries.
New this morning, UK and Lexington police responded to an overnight armed robbery. In a statement released this morning, UK police say a man was walking down East Maxwell when he was approached by 3 armed men. Police say the 3 demanded the victim hand over his wallet and phone. They then say one of the suspects hit the victim with his gun before running off. Police say they have not made any arrests in that case. Lexington city leaders tell us they're prepared to take extra steps to make sure a bar shuts down. Last week, the city's Board of Adjustments revoked the Art Bar's conditional use permit. That meant the bar on Euclid Avenue was supposed to close immediately. But city leaders say the bar opened anyway over the last weekend.
It's a non-criminal issue, but it is a civil violation, and we are exploring all legal measures that we have in order to enforce that Board of Adjustment revocation.
Lexington city leaders say they may look into possibly issuing fines against Art Bar if it stays open. Many people in the neighborhood have complained about the bar. Police say it often stayed open later than it was allowed to. The Art Bar's owner did not choose to comment.
Well, a fast-moving fire tore through part of a Richmond motel yesterday, and this morning firefighters have an idea of what may have caused it. The fire damaged multiple rooms of the Country Hearth Inn off the Eastern Bypass Monday afternoon. Firefighters say no one was injured. WKYT's Jordan Valines talked to some people forced from their rooms because of the fire.
I'm just glad it wasn't no worse than what it is.
For the past 3 years, Danny Harrington and his wife Margie have called the Country Hearth Inn motel home. But that all changed Monday.
Now I don't think we got nowhere to go because this place right here is condemned now.
Condemned after an afternoon fire ripped through the right side of the building.
The whole sky was black. Flames shooting out of the top of the roof.
Danny was one of the first ones to spot the flames, and after alerting the front desk,
I just thought get her out because if she's asleep, she could die of smoke inhalation. He banged on the window. Said, fire, get out, fire.
Firefighters soon helped evacuate all other occupants, but they say the man is staying in the room where the fire started wasn't there. Some folks say they saw him drive off shortly after the fire started. After a few hours of being on scene, firefighters found a hot plate inside the room where the fire took place, and now they believe that that could be what caused it. A fire that has the Harringtons now searching for another home.
I'm just sitting here trying to think of what I'm going to do next.
But even now, they're still thankful.
But it can be replaced, but we can't.
For the few things they have left. In Richmond, Jordan Valines, WKYT.
Investigators with the state fire marshal's office will be at the motel tomorrow in order to determine the official cause of the fire. Well, a 911 call landed a Central Kentucky woman in jail after investigators say she tied up the emergency line.
What's your emergency? My phone is up. Okay. That's not really an emergency.
Yeah, I'd say so. Investigators say Angie Roberts made that call. Dispatchers sent police to her home anyway, but investigators say Roberts kicked police out of her apartment, then followed them to the parking lot, cursing at them. Police charged her with disorderly conduct and criminal mischief. A few days later, police arrested her again for a separate disorderly conduct case. From jail, Roberts told us she needs some help.
But obviously there's something wrong with me if I keep ending up in jail. I mean, normal people aren't in jail all the time.
Roberts also told us her phone would only take emergency calls, so she got aggravated and called 911.
A Floyd County family is remembering a loved one who died while kayaking. Search crews found 49-year-old Milford Boyd's body Sunday in the Levisa Fork. Friends reported him missing on Saturday after he became separated from his group of kayakers with whom he was with on that day. Family members say Boyd was an avid kayaker and enjoyed spending time outdoors.
I want him to be remembered because he was a great man. He was a great father.
Investigators are still trying to figure out what caused Boyd's death. At this point, they believe he drowned.
Police in Louisville say they found a woman alive in the trunk of a car. She'd been reported missing 3 days ago. Witnesses say a group of people walking nearby heard a noise coming from the trunk and called police. They used a brick to break open a window of the car to open up that trunk. The woman was taken to the hospital. There's no word on her condition this morning. Louisville police aren't sure how the woman ended up in the trunk. They also say they don't know who did this to her.
The time this morning is 4:39. It's good to have you with us. WKYT This Morning, just getting started.
Viruses are sweeping across the nation, and one in particular is dangerous to kids with asthma. Moms Every Day explains how to protect your kids after the break.
Sitting there in the 50s, even a 60-degree reading down toward the south and the east. We do have some fog, too, and that fog is going to develop and really be kind of a nuisance as you work your way throughout the morning hours down toward the southeast. If you're traveling 75, Howard Rogers Parkway, Mountain Parkway, that's where we're going to be running into those problems. Afternoon looks great. I'll show you that forecast coming up.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris and First Alert Defender.
Live sky camera outside shows us a beautiful start to the morning if you're around the bluegrass and northbound. But if you're over in the east and southeast, fog is developing, so heads up for that. There's a live sky shot of the Hamburg lights, the Hamburg Pavilion. There you are, dense fog advisory in effect. That goes from places like Monticello, Somerset, work your way into Rockcastle County, and all the way up to, say, Frenchburg and Menifee, and then down toward the southeast. That's going to include that Mountain Parkway, at least parts of it, and also sitting there in the Hal Rogers Parkway. If you're sitting outside of this dense fog advisory, that does not mean you're not going to see any fog. It just means it's not as dense, not as widespread as what we're expecting down toward the southeast. So the National Weather Service out of Jackson says that's where we're going to be looking at until 10 a.m. Temperatures outside are fairly cool. I mean, we're at 53 there in Frankfort, 54 Danville, Richmond, Mount Sterling. Winchester, we're doing just fine there, going off in the mid-50s. Down toward the southeast, that's where you have those 60s. And look, we're going to be holding on to that through at least 10 a.m. because that fog's not going to get on out. So you're not going to see a lot of sunshine until about 11, maybe even noontime. Going throughout that afternoon, we'll call it partly cloudy skies, 80 degrees. It's another good-looking day and another dry day, too, and that's always key. Unfortunately, it's been 2 weeks exactly since we have actually seen some rain around here, at least measurable rain around here. So hopefully we can get that kind of situated in the days to come. And we do, going in overnight and into tomorrow morning right there in the 50s once again. So if you're a walker, runner, again tomorrow morning is going to be much like what you're seeing this morning. Warm and also dry the next few days, and that leaves us off into, I would say, Thursday time frame. Now come Friday, that's when finally we get some rain moving on in here, okay? So it does look like we're going to have that blasting cold front come flying through there on Friday. You'll feel some effects, and what I mean by feel, that cool air coming in on Friday, but it's really going to be that Saturday, Sunday time frame that you actually feel those effects. Check this out, 80 today and tomorrow. These 2 days, carbon copies of each other. Thursday, that 20% chance of rain is really late. We're not going to get much out of that. Daylight hours, I think, are going to be dry, and it'll be pretty warm right there in the mid-80s. We haven't seen mid-80s in a few days. There you are, Friday, soggy, okay? So we're looking at about a 70% chance of rain. If you're looking for a day that it's going to rain, no doubt about it. That sticks out like a sore thumb. 68, 59. Check that out. 59 for a high on Saturday. UK game, you better bundle up. It is going to be downright chilly, kicking off at 7:30, but it does look like we're going to be mostly dry throughout the weekend. So those temperatures are going to be the big story as we head throughout the next several days.
Kind of tough for Keeneland's opening day Friday.
Yes, it is, unfortunately.
Keep watch on that.
Soggy.
All right. Thank you. Our time is 4:45. Kids are now in the swing of things, being back to school, but they're also likely bringing home some viruses.
Yeah, there's a lot going around right now. Mom's Everyday correspondent Jen Lennon has some information on enterovirus.
By now, you've heard of the disease sweeping through the Midwest, sickening many. Enterovirus D68 is a common virus that causes about 10 to 15 million infections in the United States each year. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Symptoms include fever, runny nose, sneezing and cough, body aches, rash, and mouth blisters. The virus can become more serious, especially if a person already has a respiratory disease like asthma. Because the sickness spreads like wildfire in schools, it's important to remind children of how to protect themselves. Wash hands frequently with hot soapy water for 20 seconds. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid kissing, hugging, sharing of cups or eating utensils with people who are sick, and disinfect frequently touched surfaces. If your child has asthma and catches a cold and then starts to wheeze, experts recommend having them seen by a doctor immediately. For more tips to make mom's life easier, visit momseveryday.com.
For these tips and more, go to WKYT.com. Click on Moms Every Day.
Right now, 4:47 on WKYT this morning, and we're back in just a moment with more news.
After the break, we're learning a new report about the man accused of breaking into the White House. He got a lot farther inside than we previously thought. We'll have more on that story next.
Welcome back into WKYT this morning at 4:50.
Well, we've learned a man who breached security at the White House made it much further inside than was first realized.
Sources are telling CBS News not only did Omar Gonzalez make it inside the building, he also ran through one hall, past the staircase leading right to the first family's residence. They also say that Gonzalez overpowered a security service agent before other agents stopped him. An original report claimed that Gonzalez was stopped just inside the north portico doors. President Obama and his family were not there at the time. This comes 3 years after another man fired shots at the White House, striking the building 7 times.
One Secret Service agent that I talked to said, "We just keep getting lucky." Well, we can't rely on luck.
The White House says the president has been concerned about these incidents, but is still confident in the Secret Service. The director of the Secret Service is scheduled to testify before Congress today. We have a legal update on the officer who fatally shot Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. All court cases involving Darren Wilson as an arresting officer or lead investigator have been put on hold. The county prosecuting attorney says about a half dozen cases involving Wilson are on hold for now because Wilson is involved in his own case. A spokesperson for the prosecuting attorney's office says one case slipped through the cracks. It's the case of Christopher Brooks. Wilson was the arresting officer. Brooks still had a hearing on Monday, but Wilson did not appear. His attorney gave his opinion on why Wilson didn't show.
For what reason would he testify in an unrelated collateral proceeding? There is no upside. There is nothing for him to gain.
Wilson's attorney could not be reached for comment. Brooks's attorney says a grand jury proceeding for Brooks is still scheduled for Wednesday. That jury is different from the grand jury that is deciding whether Wilson should be charged in Brown's death.
A new law in California will change the way sexual assaults are investigated on college campuses. The law requires universities to have a victim-centered policy in responding to sexual assaults. The Yes Means Yes bill also specifies silence and a lack of resistance does not constitute consent. The new state law comes as the federal government investigates colleges and universities nationwide for poor handling of sexual assault cases. UC Berkeley is just one of those schools.
Especially being a girl, if someone said that I said yes and I didn't say yes, I would be very upset.
The bill applies to post-secondary schools in California, which receive money from the state. Well, later today, the federal government is expected to release details of payments to doctors by pharmaceutical companies. The information is being made public by a provision in the Affordable Care Act. The law mandates all payments made to doctors and other medical personnel. It's not yet clear what data will show. It will only show spending made in the first few months of 2013. Some pharmaceutical companies have willingly released information regarding to their payments to doctors. Analysts say, according to that data, drug companies have given more than $4 billion to doctors since 2009.
Good to have you along. 4:53 is the time on WKYT this morning on your Tuesday. And in just a moment, we'll take a look at some of the stories our news team is working on this morning.
And we'll also have another look at your forecast. Welcome back into WKYT this morning at 4:56. It's time now to take a look at some of the stories we're working on this morning. After the break, 4 UK players have been suspended for Saturday's game against South Carolina after police say they have identified them in a shots fired incident late Sunday night on campus. We'll have a full report on that coming up this morning. And Lexington police say a man was pistol whipped in an armed robbery last night near the UK campus. We'll have more on that story coming up on WKYT News at 5. And Micah is tracking some fog in the viewing area this morning. It's pretty extensive in the southeastern sections. Let's check in with him.
Yeah, that's one of the things to watch out for this morning. 60 in Jackson, 60 in Prestonsburg, and then you work your way northbound there in the 50s. So we are under cool conditions, especially north and central bound. So look, as you go throughout the morning hours, most of the fog where you saw the rain yesterday or maybe even the day before, south and southeast, that's where you see the best chance of that. We didn't really get much rain around here, so there's not much moisture there on the ground here in Lexington, Frankfort, Danville, so we're doing okay this morning. But most of that fog is located down toward the southeast. Day part planner starting off cool, foggy, head toward the afternoon. It's a pretty nice day. I mean, it's pretty much what you saw yesterday. What you're going to be seeing today, right around 80. We do it all over again for tomorrow, and we get really warm before a big blast. Cool air comes sweeping on through, and I'll show you that forecast when you can expect all that coming up another 2 hours. WKYT News in just a couple of minutes.